Hello, my dear students. I'd like to welcome you to our new session of our curriculum, English for Primary 5. Today's lesson is about when nature changes. Together, we are going to learn about some weather wonders and warnings and how and what we can do in different weather seasons. First, let me walk you through the learning outcomes of our sessions today. So by the end of this session, you will be able to describe different weather conditions, talk about past events using past simple tense, answer comprehension questions on extreme weather conditions, answer questions based on conversations about environmental issues and changes, identify vocabulary related to weather in a listening text, and complete sentences using the past simple tense correctly. These were our learning outcomes for today's session, Unit 3, Lesson 1 and 2. And now let's start our lesson today. Our lesson today is about weather wonders and warnings. Do you think weather have wonders and warnings to show us? Let's see. I'd like you first to look at the photos and to try to identify the season of the year in each photo. So, how many photos do you think you are going to see? Yes, we are going to see four photos, each for one of the seasons of the year. These are the four photos for the four seasons. The first one is spring, where you can see a bright clear sky with trees just starting to bloom and have flowers. Spring means new life and growth for everything in our life. In the second photo, you can see summer. And sure, summer is one of our favorite seasons, where you can see a bright, clear sky, blue ocean waters, and summer means warm weather, leisure, and outdoor activities and fun. The third photo is for autumn, also called fall. Do you know why is it called fall? Yes, it's because the leaves of the trees fall at this time, as you can see here in the photo. You see that the leaves of the trees have already fallen. Weather changes to be red, orange, and gold. Sunlight is not as strong as in summers, and this means it's time for change. And finally, it's winter, one of the favorite seasons, where you can see snow covering lands, bare trees, rain, and this represents cold and quiet days. These were the four seasons of the year, and in each season we see wonders and warnings, and that's what we are going to find out in the following page. So, we are going to read some situations related to weather in different seasons, and we are going to decide if they are wonders, if they are good and the pleasant events, or they are warnings, which are frightening and damaging events. Let's read the situations and start to classify them. We have here about 8 situations. The first one is a gentle snowfall that covers the playground. Number two, signs warning about a forest fire. The third is a misty morning with dew on the flowers. The fourth one, river that has burst its banks. The ground is shaking. The sun shining brightly on a cool morning. Driving on roads that covered in black ice. And the last one is now where you can see lightning and thunder in the sky. And here are the situations classified into wonders where you can see them green, like the gentle snowflow that covers the playground. It's a wonderful sight. And in the early morning, when you see drops of dew of water on the leaves of flowers, and in the middle of the day, when you can see the sun shining brightly on a cool morning, these are all wonderful things. We enjoy them, but it's not always enjoyable. There are some warnings that nature sends us. The first one is when the ground is shaking. And the second warning, when someone is driving on the roads and covered in black ice. That's very frightening. Another warning is when you see lightning and hear thunder over your head in the sky. Another warning, when you see the river and that water has already burst on its banks. And the last warning today is signs about a forest fire. These were are all wonders and warnings that nature sends us. Now we are going to find out about some more weather phenomena. We are going to look at each photo and read the definition of each one and understand why it is a weather phenomenon. The first one is for a flood. This is in this city. You can see a lot of water. The water is so great that the roads are closed. And on the second photo, you can see a wildfire in the forest. You can see flames everywhere. So when there is a flood, a city, we can see streets that look like a big river with water covering the cars. As you see, we can just see the head of the car and reaching the windows of the house. Look here, the water is everywhere. No one can cross from here to there. It's dangerous. And the second one is there is an uncontrolled fire. Firefighters cannot control them. Fire has just burned in forests, grasslands, and fields. They are all burning. This fire can be started by lightning or by people who are not careful about fire. Another two situations is sandstorm and drought. Look at this photo. There is a big sandstorm. What's a sandstorm? Look here. There is a lot of sand. The sand lifted the land and rose in the air. So a sandstorm happens when a strong wind blew and lifts and take in its way large amounts of sand and dust from the dry land, like this one. Here, the sand raises the sky and in the atmosphere, making it very difficult and hard to see and breathe. Another phenomena is drought, and drought happens when drought happens. This what happens in the land. There you can see some here. So a drought is happens when there is a long time when this area doesn't have much rain. This causes two things: shortage of water and lack of food. The last two are heat wave and thunderstorm. Heat wave is comes in some areas like the Gulf and when it's the very high temperature. So we can see that there is a high wave when the temperature is very high, the weather is increasingly hot, and this lasts not only for an hour or one a day, for days, several days or weeks, and this high temperature can be dangerous for people, animals, and the plants. It can damage. Look, the sun is very high. Something else when there is a storm in the air. This storm can produce lightning and thunder. It's caused by warm, moist air rising quickly to create huge dark cloud. So, thunder and lightning can cause a thunderstorm when the air rises with its moist in the sky. These were six weather phenomena that happen and are considered one warnings from nature. We have just watched the photos of the phenomenon and the warnings, and now we are going to read and match. We have these six words for six warnings. The first is wildlife, the second is for thunderstorm, the third is for a sandstorm, a flood, heat wave, and the drought. Remember, we have just talked about these phenomena, and we have also six definitions for each definition and for each of these. Can you match each one to a definition? Yes. In a wildfire, the weather burns through forests and homes. This is when there is a great fire in forests and homes, it's a wildfire. And in thunderstorm, children are afraid of the lightning, which arises in the sky, and also the sound of thunder is very frightening. And in the thunderstorm, there is a severe wind that carries rain and sand and dust. Remember, it makes it difficult for you to see. And when there is a flood, there's too much water covering dry land. And in heat wave, the temperature is very high and is very dangerous. And it doesn't last for one day or for a short time, it lasts for days. And in drought, there is no rain for a long time. It's the opposite of the word flood. In flood, we can see there is too much water. In drought, we can see there is no water at all. Now we are going to read and listen to Mazen and Gina, two students who are talking about the last phenomenon and extreme weather conditions. So Mazen asks Gina, did you hear about the flood in our city last week? It was terrible. Yes, Mazen, I saw it in the news. The water covered the streets, and many cars got stuck. It looked scary. Yes, my uncle's house was damaged. The weather flooded his living room, and he had to stay with us for a few days. That's so sad. I hope he is okay now. Floods are terrible, and now there is a drought. No rain in China for months. Farmers can't grow crops because there is no water. Yes, droughts are awful. The land gets so dry that animals can't find water. And I hear that a wildfire is spreading in the forest in the USA. Oh no. Is it close to the mountains? Yes. It spreads quickly because it's dry there and the winds are too strong. Sadly, many trees burned down and animals lost their homes. What a pity. Let's learn more about how we can stay safe and help our planet. This was Mazen and Gina talking about flood, drought, fire, wildfire. Now, as you have read about Mazen and Gina, we are going to answer some questions about the reading text. So, what happened in Mazen and Gina's last week? Was it a flood? Was it a drought? Was it a thunderstorm, a sandstorm, or what? And what about the flood that affected Mazen's uncle? Is he okay now? Why can't farmers grow food in the USA? And finally, we want to know what can Mazen and Gina do to help the plants. Yes, here is the answer. In Mason and Gina's city, remember, there was a flood last week, and it was very terrible because water covered streets. Cars got stuck, couldn't move, houses was about to sink, and it looked very scary. Also, in Mason's uncle's house, there was flood, and the water just entered the living room. And Mazen's uncle had to leave their home and to stay with Mazen and Gina's family for a few days. And what about farmers in the USA? Why can't they grow food? Yes, they couldn't grow food because there was drought. There was no rain. So how can they get water for the crops? And finally, Mazen and Gina should learn how to be eco-friendly and how to help people stay safe during time of warnings like thunder, lightning, fire, drought, flood. Now let's think about how these weather changes can affect people's life, animals, and places. Is it the same? Can people and animals and the places life change and affect? And if it changes, is it for the better or for the worse? Let's see. We have people, we have places, and we have animals. For people, in good weather, when it is sunny and mild weather like spring and summer, we can all go play outside and stay healthy because there is no bad weather to make us feel cold or freezing. But in bad weather, there is extreme, if it is extremely hot or extremely cold, very hot or very cold, we can get sick either with high temperature, like when we can are attacked by rain or snow, and in this case, we cancel schools, we cancel trips, we cancel everything because it's very dangerous to travel. Also, storms are harmful because all of these snow, cold, heat, rain, storms say that we must stay safe inside. This is for people. What about animals? Animals suffer from three things. Animals also need good weather to survive. So if the weather is good, they will survive, they will live. And if the weather is not good, like times of drought, they cannot find food or water, so they will die. Also, some animals have to change home because in this area they cannot find safe places for them to live in. So they migrate. They leave their homes and go out to other areas to live and find food. Other animals hibernate. They sleep deeply all the winter until it is warmer again and start to come again to life. These are people and animals, but also places can be affected by bad weather. So if there is floods, roads are closed, farmers' crops are damaged, houses can sink, and there is no way to go here or there. In times of drought, there is no water in the rivers, and the soil also becomes hard and cracked, like the picture for drought. Remember? And if there is a strong wind or heavy snow or rain, this can break trees, damage roofs and schools, and weak houses. So we can see that animals, peoples, and the places are affected by weather changes. Do you remember the text about Mazen and Gina? There were some words in colors. This was a photo for one of the words in the text. This was a photo for another word and a photo for a third word. Can you guess what each photo represents? Yes. In the first photo, it says that got stuck when, like the cars which got stuck in the flood. This old boy also got stuck. He can't move, but he got stuck in the mud, not in the flood. And like the houses and schools and the roofs who were damaged, also this mobile screen is damaged. It's broken. It can't be repaired. And here we can see that trees are burning down. There is a wildfire and the trees are burning down. These were three words from the text. The boy got stuck in the mud, he can't move. The screen is damaged, can't be repaired. And the trees is burned down. There is no live trees. Also, we need to write the correct form for words, some words from the text. The first one says, the sudden sunlight made a loud noise and flashed brightly. Can sunlight do this, or is it something else? And number two, after days of heavy rain, the river caused a big drought in the town. Heavy rain and the drought? How come? We are going to see. And here we can see a pond spread quickly through dry forests, burning many trees. Pond burning. During the heat wave, the air was filled with dust and strong wind. How come heat and wind? We need to stay dangerously indoors when there is a big storm. Is staying indoors dangerous? Sure, we need to correct all of these five words. Yes, this is the answer. The sudden thunderstorm made a loud noise and flashed brightly, not sunlight. There is thunder and lightning which make noise and flash. And there was a heavy rain, and sure there was flood, not drought. And the pond cannot spread through the forest. It's the wildfire. It's the wildfire here. And sure, during the sandstorm, the air is filled with dust and we can see, not heat wave. And finally, we need to stay safe indoors when there is a big storm or any bad weather. So these were the correct forms of the words for these sentences. Now let's move to something else. We have also some photos and we need also some correct words for each one. We have these photos. Can you remember what events from nature does each one represent? In the first one, there is a heat wave because the man is feeling very hot. He is trying to dry his heat. And in the second one, there is a wildfire which is burning all the trees in the forest. And this boy is suffering from drought. He cannot find water to drink. He is looking for water everywhere, and the land is cracked around him. These were all for lesson one, and now we are going to move to ancient Egypt to see what were our grandparents, the ancient Egyptians, did in extreme weather. Did they stay safe at home? Did they have the same phenomena that we suffer today? Let's see. So this is a photo of the pyramid, and the pyramids represents ancient Egypt. So how do you think the Egyptians who built the pyramid dealt with weather and bad weather in the past. Is there a difference between the weather we have today and the weather in Egypt? Do you think it was different or similar? Yes. True, there were some things similar to today, and there were other things that were different from today. Like what? Like, for example, it was very hot and sunny in Egypt. In ancient Egyptians were very hot and sunny, especially in summer. Also, it was very dry. Most of the land was a desert. That's why the ancient Egyptians lived only around or on the banks of the river Nile because it rarely rained outside or very far from the Nile River. There were green land just right next to the Nile River. They lived on the banks of the river and left all of Egypt empty. So, like our ancient Egyptian, our pharaohs suffered from hot and sunny weather and very dry weather. But it is not all the same. There was something different. It was wetter in the past, not very hot like today. But also, sometimes the Nile River flooded around the fields of Egypt. So, do you think we have flood today? No. Today in Egypt, we don't have floods because we built the high dam and it helped us to be safe from flood. So, let's read about the weather in ancient Egypt and learn more about the ancient Egyptians and how they dealt in with the weather. So ancient Egypt had weather that made farming possible, even in the desert. The Nile River gave water and rich soil, which helped crops grow. But sometimes the weather also brought problems like floods, droughts, and sandstorms. Floods, the Nile River flooded every year. The water brought rich soil to the land, which helped crops grow. But sometimes the floods were too strong and damaged farmers. To stop this, the ancient Egyptians built canals and basins to control water around and spread it over their fields. Drought. Drought had happened. Droughts happened when there was not enough rain. The Nile's water became low and the land became dry. Crops couldn't grow. To solve this, the ancient Egyptians made irrigation systems to bring water to these fields. Sandstorms. Sandstorms called Hamassin brought strong hot winds with winds. It was hard to see and breathe. People stayed inside to stay safe. They built their homes with thick mud bricks to protect themselves from the wind and sand. The ancient Egyptians didn't have modern machines, but they found smart ways to survive. They worked hard, used simple tools, and protected themselves from heat, sand, and the floods. So the ancient Egyptian suffered from three things: suffered from floods, suffered from droughts, and suffered from sandstorm. But they were very clever to deal with these things. How? By building canals and basins, by making irrigation systems to bring water to the fields in times of drought, by building home with thick mud bricks to stop themselves or to stop Hamassin from damaging it. So let's see now about how the weather affected people in Egypt in the past and to today. In the past, there were yearly flood, and this yearly flood brought water and rich soil and dark soil. And that's why Egypt was known for farming and good crops. Because flood brought water and also rich soil. The Egyptians built canals and basins to move the Nile's water to their fields during the times of drought, so they could deal with flood. When the Nile flooded too strongly, damaged the farms. But it was not always flooding. Sometimes there was no rain. So at this time, the crops got low and the crops died. There was also sandstorms, which is called khamsin. It was hot, strong, and winds that carried lots of sands. This was ancient Egypt. What about today? Today, we could control some of these bad weathers, like the flood. We built the high dam, so there is no flood, and modern Egypt is mainly challenged by extreme heat and keeping enough water in the Nile for everyone. So the ancient Egyptians suffered from some things, and the modern Egyptians, or the Egyptians today, could overcome or stop these problems. This was in the past, and how we dealt with it in the present. Now let's do some exercise about the ancient Egyptian and what they did in the past. We have four sentences, and we need to choose the correct answer. Number one, the floods brought water and to the land. What did the floods with water to the land? Did it bring sand or rich soil or rocks or heat? Number two, droughts made the Nile's water, soil, spread high or low. What about drought and the Nile water? Number three, they protected the ancient Egyptians from the storms. What protected the ancient Egyptians? What did they use to build their house to protect themselves? Did they use mud bricks or wood or the pyramids or metal? And what about the ancient Egyptians? What were their smart ways to damage or breathe or grow or survive? Let's think about the answer. Yes, in times of flood, there was water and rich soil that came to the land. But in times of drought, the Nile water was very low, and the pyramids protected the ancient Egyptians from the sandstorm. Also, the ancient Egyptians found smart ways to survive, to live. Now, I'd like you to look at some sentences from the text. These sentences are: in ancient Egypt, the Nile River flooded every year. The ancient Egyptians didn't have modern tools to help them. Droughts happened when there was not enough rain. What did the ancient Egyptians do when the river flooded? And were there sandstorms in the past? What can you note about these sentences? They talk about the ancient Egyptian. So, does it talk about something that we can see now or in the past? This was one thing. One question. Something else. What is the form of the verbs? Is it the infinitive or is it the infinitive with something else? Are the sentences all negative, like here, or some negative and some affirmative? Are they all sentences or there are some questions? These were the examples, and let's now look at them and check and answer these questions. In the first example, in ancient Egypt, the Nile flooded every year. This is talks about the past, and we use the past to talk about finished actions or events in the past. So this was in ancient Egypt, not now. It stopped completely. And this sentence is in the affirmative. There is no negative. No, not, no, any. Number two, the ancient Egyptians didn't have modern tools to help them. Also, it's about the past, about something that happened and finished. But is it the same? No, because this is affirmative and this is in the negative. يعني ايه negative؟ ما في. Didn't have. We use didn't and the base form or the infinitive form or the verb without any addition. We don't add anything to the verb. So in the affirmative, we use verbs plus G or EG or as we are going to see next. And in the negative, we have didn't and the infinitive form. These were for the first two examples. Another examples were what did the ancient Egyptians do when the rivers flooded? Look here, what we have? We have a question mark. Yes. And so we have here a question mark and a WH word. Do you remember WH words? They are what, where, when, where, why, who. These are WH words. And when you see the WH, one of these words at the beginning, it's a question, not a sentence. Like, look at the examples. Look how it is arranged. Here, what we have at the beginning of the sentence, we have the question word. Next comes the word did. That we have the ancient Egyptians, who is the subject, the one who does the action. And here, is it did or do? Yes, it's do, because we have did here. This is for WH questions. And we don't only have WH questions, we also have yes no questions. Yes no questions begin with the word did. There is no WH word. And the Egyptians build, not built, canals and bases. Yes, did with infinitive. And the question mark. Something else we can use where to ask to begin the question in the past. Now, look at these verbs from the text. The verbs are made, give, help, brought, flood, were, felt, happened, damaged, became, called, stayed, found, used, protected. If you go back to the text, you will find all these verbs. And sure, as we have just said, these verbs are all in the past. But do they have the same form? No. Some have ed, some other have different forms, like were, built, give, made. So verbs in the past can be regular or irregular. يعني ايه بقى regular or irregular? Yes. Regular verbs are the verbs which have d or ed at the end of the verb, like damaged, cold, stayed, protected, used. They also end in d. If they are like the verb cool, we add ed. If they are like the verb damage, which ends in e, we only add ed. These are regular verbs because they have a rule. And other verbs are irregular. They change their form. Look at the verb made. Can you remember the infinitive or the present? Yes, it's make. And in the past made. It's give. In the past gave. Spring. In the past proved. It's am or is. In the past were. It's build, in the past built. It's become, and in the past became. It's find, and in the past it's found. So they are irregular because they have different forms. And not all regular verbs have ed. We have some cases. So, for example, most verbs we add ed. That's when the verb ends in a consonant, like ask, asked, start, started, look, looked. Other verbs that end in e, we don't add ed, we add only d. Why do we add another e? Like live, lived, hope, hoped, move, moved. Also, we have some verbs that end in y. We cannot add ed plus after y. So we change the y into I and add the ed. Try, tried, ry, ried. Cry, cried, ried. Study, studied. And finally, we have the CVC. What is the CVC? They are verbs with one syllable and which have these three vowels: consonant, vowel, consonant. They follow this pattern. And in this case, we do something different. We double. We add the last word letter again before adding the ed. Like stop. Stop, S-T-O-P. Consonant, vowel, consonant, CVC. What happened here? It becomes stop. What did we do? It ends in B, B, and we add another B. Plan, plan, another CVC, consonant, vowel, consonant, and also double N, EG, and another CVC, drop, drop. Pay attention to how we add EG to the verbs. Look at these verbs or at this ending before adding the EG. It is not only about how we write the EG, it's all sometimes about how we pronounce the EG. What does this mean? In the ending or in the verbs in the past are pronounced in three different ways. We sometimes it's the EG is pronounced like id, id. في كسرة كده قبل الد. And sometimes it pronounces a t, t. And other times it's just the. So how can we know that? نعرف بقى ازاي? Look at this verb ending. If the verb ends in t or the, like the verb start or need, we add when we add ed, we make it started, needed, not started, not needed, started, needed. When verbs have some verbs that like l, g, v, m, y, we had just the, like call, call, plug, plug, love, love, lean, lean, play, play. So مفيش الكسرة دي started لكن pull needed plug. See? And when we add the T sound, we have ending like f, k, f, s, ch. We say stop, stop. It's stopped. Look, looked. Left, left. Kiss, kissed. Watch, watched. So pay attention to how you pronounce the ed as you pay attention to how you write. ناخد بالنا ازاي بنكتب وبننطق ال nd ending at the end. I wish you have enjoyed our session today and see you next Wednesday for a new session. Goodbye.